Welcome into another edition of Primetime Preps. Brad Caldwell and Bill Harshaw here, recording from Russelville High School, the arena, Russelville Cyclone Arena. And man, what a great place this is, Bill, to watch a basketball game. Russellville's behind us right now. They're getting ready to go to Watson Chapel for hoops action tonight. And we're getting closer and closer and closer to having to transition to hoops, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to. But right now we got tons of football.
That's it. We have had a lot of football going on around the state of Arkansas, especially in at War Memorial Stadium. We've had a couple of high school championship games this weekend, or last weekend, I guess I should say, and they were big ones. We had a repeat game, two teams facing off that have already faced each other once this year, and that was Bryant and North Little Rock in 7A action, and that turned out to be a whale of a game.
And look, North Little Rock bounced back, played Bryant, probably the best game that they've played all season, or played against Bryant, maybe other than the Trinity Christian game out of Texas, which Bryant had 5 turnovers, and that game still won the game 44-40. But Bryant has just proven over the last 30 games that they are just too good. They're just too good for, a lot of teams, not just North Little Rock. 30 games in a row, haven't lost since 2018 when they lost to Fayetteville by 1 point. They avenged that loss later on in that season, and since then it has been nothing but rolling for the Bryant Hornets.
And it really has, and that's the thing is all season long Bryant has done whatever they've wanted to do with all of their opponents. You'll notice that North Little Rock and Bryant, they faced off, week 7, I think it was, somewhere around in there. And, Bryant actually surrendered the lead to North Little Rock at one point in that game. And, I remember mentioning last week, if North Little Rock can maintain that momentum and that intensity that they had there in the opening quarter of Week 7's game, they have a chance here. And it looks like, based on the score at least, a 27-17 victory for Bryant, looks like they were able to keep that intensity a little longer than they did last time.
North Little Rock is a really good team, and really any team that thinks they have a chance to beat Bryant outside of North Little Rock is just probably crazy. But even North Little Rock proves to be not quite enough. Playing Bryant, the team that we have seen here, 27-17, is actually a feather in the cap, whether they want to admit that or not, Bill. I mean, I know that Coach Eldridge, he might watch this and say, you're crazy, man. That's not true. We wanted to go out and win the game, and sure you do. But really and truly, Bryant has really proven themselves to be one of the best teams ever in the state's history.
And we were talking about that, earlier, and I think you're right. I mean, you think back at which other team in the state of Arkansas can even compare to the performances that we've seen from this Bryant football team this year. And I think the only one that really would come close would be maybe Springdale when Wess Malzahn was there. And so I think that would be one of the ones to look at. But, you look at the intangibles on that team with Austin Ledbetter and, all of the big tight end. So, I mean, definitely some key performers on that team. It's a well-oiled machine. They play very, very hard together. They get up for each other. They support each other. They hang out with each other, as we found out earlier. So it's just definitely a good, well-coached football team that has bonded together in ways that a lot of teams haven't been able to bond together with, especially during COVID. A lot of people are kind of staying away. And so, when you have teammates that are not only great friends on the field but off the field, that speaks a lot.
It does. It speaks a lot. And they've got some guys, man. They've got Tanner Anderson, a running back, senior running back, 5'10", 202 pounds. Their offensive line looks like a D2 offensive line. Got some guys that are going to be highly recruited coming off of that offensive line. They just have so many players. It's just really an embarrassment of riches over there at Bryant if you really want to get down to it. And I'm trying to find the Bracey kid's name here. Jamarian Bracey. He was also a senior, 6'1", 220 pounds. His dad was Shamar Bracey, I believe, that from the big-time rising back in the day. that ended up ending Shiloh Christian's run as a state champion. I think it was 3 in a row there. Shiloh was going for a 4th one. The last game that Gus Malzahn coached at Shiloh, I believe, before he moved over to Springdale. So they've just got some guys, man. They've got some talent there at Bryant. It's been an amazing, amazing run there. 30 games in a row, 3 state championships in a row. What else can you say, really?
There's not a lot when it comes to Bryant. Everything that you're going to say about Bryant is going to be positive. Very well coached, like I said, well coached football team, and congratulations to the Hornets. They were able to have another undefeated season, 30 in a row, and get that state title. So I mean, they did what they had to do in an unprecedented time.
Yeah.
To make that happen and to keep that streak alive is impressive.
Scored 600 points on the year. I mean, that's just pretty amazing. Pretty amazing when you think about that. We've got Greenwood also talking about state champions and dynasties and all the things that you want to say, the superlatives there for Greenwood. 10 state championships now since 2000. They were 10-3 in the state finals. They beat Lake Hamilton 49-24.
And that was an interesting game, Brad. I was kind of staying on top of that one, and just to kind of give you a feel of how that game started. Lake Hamilton gets the football, goes down, was stopped, kicked a field goal, went up 3-0, and it wasn't really an onside kick, but it worked to that same manner when you fumble the kick off, and they were able to jump on it, pounce on that ball, and went down the field, put some more points on the board. So now all of a sudden, just minutes into the football game, you're going, wow, this is a really great game plan. We're up 10-0 over a very, very good Greenwood team, but that momentum was not able to be stayed. There's a couple of interesting calls that could have went either way. There was a punt that a lot of people wonder, was that really a punt? We're going to talk to Wess more later, and it's going to be interesting to see what his thoughts on this punt was. As he takes the punt, he drops the ball hits the ground, bounces back up and hits the ground a second time, and then he kicks it off of the drop kick. Okay, so the rules and the argument that was being made in that game is that a legal kick?
Right.
They reviewed it. There was a review team at the state championship game. They reviewed that game and determined ultimately that it was a valid kick. But there were, I was listening to Wess's broadcast as well, and they were talking about the officials up in the press box that said that it's a live ball once it hits the ground more than once.
Right.
And so that was an interesting part on that, but. Greenwood still went down and scored on that possession, so it didn't really change anything. But it kind of sucked some of the momentum that Lake Hamilton had, and Greenwood was able to go off and rip off 31 unanswered points.
And, that's what Greenwood does. I mean, you think you're in the game, and then all of a sudden you're not. They run off several points in a row, and all of a sudden you go from thinking that you can beat one of the greatest dynasties in the history of Arkansas football to being, well, that's why they are one of the greatest dynasties in the history of Arkansas football, with another state championship. We talked to Jordan Hanna a few weeks back, one of the first interviews that we had. Actually, I think he was the first player interview that we had, and he told us about all the ins and outs of playing for Greenwood and the expectations and so forth. And anyway, with that being said, it's another great year here for the Greenwood Bulldogs and another 6A state championship.
Another state championship game. And those were the two state title games that we had last week. There were some other big games going on across the state. We're looking at some big games this week in 5A and 2A.
Yes, 5A and 2A. We got Pulaski Academy and Little Rock Christian taking on each other after big victories in the semifinals over Wynn and Harrison. We talked to Cole Keelan from Harrison, a great kid there. They scored 28, but it just wasn't enough. Little Rock Christian, too high-powered of an offense. And then Wynn, undefeated coming into that ball game, and Pulaski Academy put it on them. And I see the chatter. A lot of people talking about the private school versus public school, and used to Shiloh Christian was winning every state championship, so you had Pulaski Academy and Shiloh. Right now, it's Little Rock Christian and Pulaski Academy as the two that kind of make everybody kind of say, should
Do they need to step up another classification
right, or should
level?
private schools play in their own classification and all that? Of course, you've got the problem where really there's not enough of those type of teams to play. You have Shiloh Christian, you have PA, you've got Harding Academy. I think there's a rule in Texas that says that private schools can play all the way in the highest classification, or they play in the private school league, one of the two. But you're talking about two totally different animals there. But you got two private schools meeting, as Pulaski Academy did beat Wynn 52-14, and Little Rock Christian beat Harrison 52-28.
And the one that really stands out the most to me in that classification is Wynn and the PA game. I thought, Wynn, very good football team. We knew that they had some pretty good accomplishments on the season. And I was expecting a closer ball game. I'm not surprised at the outcome of the game. I did expect PA to win, but it's the difference of score that really surprised me the most in that game.
Yeah, and again, when you play Pulaski Academy, I watched them play Morrilton last year. They had Jacoby Criswell, and Criswell was head and shoulders above everybody. I mean, he was just a fantastic football player. But, man, they just play the game so differently, and they keep the pressure on you with the onside kicks and the way that they do it, and then the no punting and all that stuff, to the point they play that way all the time. You don't play that way. And it really makes for a tough go of it. Not to say that they're unbeatable, but, you'd like to see them play the Greenwoods. You'd like to see them play the Bryants of the world, because really when you think about it, you got Bryant, you got Greenwood, you've got Pulaski Academy. I'd put those as my top three teams in the state, and then I would move on from there.
You have to. I mean, but they're head and shoulders above everybody else, and I think it's interesting, that the private school, they can recruit. They can they have their own rules in a way, and that is some of the grumblings that we've seen years past, but it's coming back out. The AAA made those schools go up in classification, play to a higher level. That's not stopping them.
No.
That's not stopping it.
No, definitely not. And they are, if you don't know, I think they have a 1.75 multiplier, where almost every kid that they have that goes to the school counts as two, almost. And, PA's playing they've got like a 3A enrollment, but they're playing 5A. But, nobody's feeling sorry for them because they're winning the 5A. And so, it is what it is. 2A also has a state championship matchup there, where Des Arc took on Junction City to beat Junction City. I know that doesn't happen very often before the state finals. Junction City's another one of those teams that has a dynastic run there, where they've had multiple state championships and multiple appearances, and different classifications and everything that you want to say about them. But they did fall short this week, 22-20. And then Fordyce, I was told by Kyle Sutherland, best two teams in 2A played on Friday night when Fordyce beat Gurdon 27-24.
And I mean, that's a close ball game. That sounds like one that I'm jealous of Kyle for being at, because I would have liked to have been at that one. But Fordyce, you look at them year in and year out, and you start talking about the 2A state title game, for example, and a lot of times people is like, well, is Fordyce playing Junction City again? Because those two teams play a lot for a state title. And so it was interesting to see the Dragons go down to the hands of Des Arc. I think that speaks volumes to how good Des Arc ultimately is. Is that enough firepower to take down a well-coached Fordyce team? We don't know. We're going to find out as those two teams will face off this weekend at War Memorial.
Yeah, big-time game there. Des Arc has also been a team that has moved themselves into that 2A talk of one of the top 3 and 4 teams. They always seem to run into a Junction City or a Fordyce. It ends up knocking them out of the playoffs. They made it to the state finals back in 2013, where Junction City destroyed them. But they still made it. They still made it there to the finals. I know that that's in the back of a lot of people's minds there in Des Arc. I expect Des Arc to play well Friday or Saturday night, 6:40 there at War Memorial Stadium. Fordyce may be too much for them by the time it's all said and done, though.
I think you're right. I mean, Des Arc, they're out to something to prove something. They want to say, hey, look, you guys have overlooked us all season long. and this is statewide. A lot of people just kind of look at Desark like, yeah, they're just having a good year, and somebody's going to beat them. A lot of people thought that Junction City would take them down. But Desark is wanting to prove that, hey, look, it doesn't matter if there's COVID going on or not. We're here to win the state championship, and they only have one other game to do so.
So we also had quarterfinal action in 4A and 3A, moving into the semifinals this weekend. A lot of big-time games there in the quarterfinals in both classifications. Shiloh Christian beat Kylan James and Dumas 31-12. Stuttgart 35-21 over Ozark. That was a really good ball game there. Warren and Nashville, another awesome game, 48-40, and then Rivercrest 61-27 over Crossett.
And I think the one game, if you look at all of the games that we just talked about, I think the biggest one that has the eye-popping attention is that Warren-Nashville game. That would have been the big-time, headline matchup of the week. Warren was able to take it to Nashville, and Nashville always a tough team to beat. Same thing with Warren, and so no surprise that Warren is moving on. That could have went either way.
Yep.
Rivercrest, look at Rivercrest. They're taking care of things against Crossett, and Rivercrest, Keyshawn Scott, Cam Turner. We've heard those names quite a few times here on the program, but when I looked at the stats from that game, I was a little surprised that Cam Turner didn't have a whole lot of passing yards. It looked like he got most of his yardage on the ground, so that was kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah, and it was different for him, but they still scored 61, and I'm sure that Crossett came in with a game plan. They're going to do certain things, take away the pass or whatever, and it ended up that Turner ended up doing it on the ground. He's had a phenomenal year this year. Also, Keyshawn Scott as well, second in the state in receiving yardage, one of the tops in the nation as well. He and Hayden Schrader have had just standout years for their respective teams. Schrader at Bryant, and we're going to have him actually with Austin.
Bonus.
Yeah, Austin Ledbetter here in the next segment. In two segments, I should say. We've got Coach Dave Wheeler of Russelville. He's the new coach here at Russelville. And then Austin Ledbetter and Wess Moore. And they are going to join us here. It's going to be a great show today, Bill, as we get ready to do 3A. 3A here in quarterfinal action, we had Harding Academy beating Boonville 52-21. Glen Rose over Center Point 34-21. McGee over Prescott. There was some craziness going on there, 44-39. Hoxie over Paris 65-35.
And there's a lot of good games there as well. Harding Academy, who can beat them? We've gone through each classification saying who can beat that team. And I think in Class 3A, you got to look at Harding Academy as the team to beat, because everybody in the state knows how well coached and how tough Boonville is. Anytime the Boonville Bearcats come to town, they're looking to do some damage. Harding Academy was able to shut that down, and we know that Boonville is a good football team. They beat a good Paris team several weeks back, and so I think that was interesting with the Hoxie-Paris game. I'm not really surprised that Hoxie won that game, but what did surprise me was the difference in points, 65 points up against Paris. You don't see that very often, and that was a good Paris football team.
Oh, yeah, for sure. A very underrated Paris football team at that. Team that just really played well this year. 11-2 on the year, only lost to Boonville and Hoxie. They really showed what they could do, and one of the best years in school history. But, boy, when you run into a team that puts 65 on you in the playoffs, you got to say, man, that team is just really good.
Well,
Hoxie.
I mean, when you have to. Yeah. I mean, it's at this point when you get 65 hung out, you almost start looking for health insurance at that point.
And when is the last time that you had a life insurance checkup? Does your life insurance plan provide you with critical illness coverage or long-term coverage? Contact the experts at Jerome Associates for a life insurance checkup today. Protect your most valuable asset, yourself. Call Mike Giroux at 1-888-360-8611 to schedule an appointment today. We'll be back with new Russellville head coach Dave Wheeler right after this. You're watching Primetime Preps, listening to Primetime Preps, experiencing Primetime Preps.
Well, you're a part of.
You're a part of it on all of the ESPN platforms.
your family, your most prized possession. You want to take care of them. You want to give them the very best. When choosing a pharmacy, you want someone that knows your name, understands you and your way of life. At Rose Drug, they will take care of your family just like you were their own. They will be someone that you can trust with the ones that you love the most. That's Rose Drug in Russelville.
Here, in the heart of the River Valley, is St. Mary's Regional Health System. Here is the area's most comprehensive range of medical services, along with advanced treatment options and responsive emergency care. Here is our team of more than 900 professionals who bring healthcare to life through people caring for people. And it is here where you can count on St. Mary's to always be, because to us, community matters. For more than 90 years, our investment in our community has been unmatched, and today that couldn't be stronger. St. Mary's, we're here for you.
When is the last time you had a life insurance checkup? Does your life insurance plan provide you with critical illness coverage or long-term care coverage? Contact the experts at Giroux & Associates for a life insurance checkup today. Protect your most valuable asset, yourself. Call Mike Giroux at 888-360-8611 to schedule an appointment today.
We're here with new Cyclone head coach Dave Wheeler. You were tied to the most successful era in Cyclone history, especially the most successful season, that 16 team. Those people are still kind of revered around here. You're one of those that is revered. Tell us what it's like to come back to that.
It's great, and then it's also a little bit nerve-wracking a little bit too, because the expectations are really high, and I understand that. But at the same time, it's great to be a part of something that was so special.
What was it about that 16 team that made it that type of team?
It's like I talk about a lot when people ask me about the 2016 year. People want to talk about that year and how great it was and all the things we did. And it was special, but people don't realize the reason we were special in 2016 is because of what we did in 2015, and the grind that we went through, and the heartache and the toughness, and there's a lot of things that were hard on our football program, hard on the kids, hard on the coaches that happened in 2015, and then that spring and off season and summer going into 2016. We went through a lot of things to get to 2016, to get to that December 4 date, and that's the part that people forget, or don't know, or just didn't realize that there's a lot to going into a season like that. Mm-hmm. And I talk about the 2015 part of that more than I do the 2016, because that was the biggest piece of that puzzle. Was what we did the year before.
And you've got a rebuilding here in Russellville right now. I mean, a program that has won 3 games in the last 2 seasons, and have had some bright spots, but overall just not the expectations that the community wants. So what is it that you're going to do to start getting Russellville going in that direction?
Well, it starts again, just like the comparison to 2015. It starts with what you do in the off season and what you do with the players and the weight workouts, and what your expectations are, what your standards are. We're going to set those high, just like we did before, and we're not going to allow any deviation from that. We're going to stay at the high standard, whether it's off season, whether that's classroom, whether it's doing things right in the community. We want to make sure we hold ourselves to a high standard, and once you start doing that, it's easy to hold yourself to that standard on the football field.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure you've been asked this already, what are we going to see on the football field? What is the product going to look like in your mind when it's at the top, at the peak?
It's, to me, it's a team that plays extremely hard on every phase, that there is no weakness, that when you line up, and that's kind of, I think the biggest thing is you want people that you play against, when they leave that football field and when they talk about Russellville in the conference, they talk about a team that is physical, that is hard to play, that's not any fun to go to, that it's a tough environment when you go to their place, that when we show up on the road to their stadiums, they know they're going to be in for a physical football fight. And that to me is the highest compliment that can be paid. Is everybody in the conference says, hey, the one team I don't like playing, we might beat them, but man, I don't like playing them, is Russelville. To me, that's where we want to be.
And you're coming into a very tough conference, with the move in from Little Rock Parkview and Van Buren coming down from the 7A West, and even an improved Mountain Home team. There are no gimmies in this conference. How do you prepare your kids for that?
Again, I think you go to what you do in your off season and how well are you getting these kids prepared to hold themselves to a high standard, and the more you do that, then it becomes irrelevant who's on the field against you. It's more about what are you doing and how are you accepting the challenges that are out there, and how do you handle adversity, because there's going to be adversity in every game, and I don't care who you play, it doesn't matter. So how do you prepare your kids for that adversity, and how do they handle that adversity? I think that's going to be the key to whoever you play, whether that be Greenwood, whether that be Lake Hamilton, whether that be Mountain Home, whoever it may be. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're looking to do.
And what do you believe in philosophy-wise?
Believe in winning. Whatever. And people have asked me, do you run this? Do you run that? I think in today's football world, in the last few years, things have changed to the point where you got to be explosive offensively. You got to have explosive plays. It's hard to just grind out 4 or 5 yards at a pop, 3 yards at a pop, and I think you got to be able to run the football and throw it, and have success at both. Defensively, we want to be a team, and I've talked about this before. People have asked me, you're going to run the same thing you ran in 2016. The answer is yes and no. We run versions of that at Fayetteville and Bentonville West and Rogers, but at the same time, I think you have to be able to adapt. 2004 at Tech, when I was D coordinator there, we were really, really good. We had a really good year, 10-2 or something, and we were ranked number 1 in the country in several defensive categories. And then the very next year, and that year we were a 4-2-5 team. The very next year we go to a 3-4 because we lost all 4 starting defensive linemen that were seniors. And really, to run a 4-2-5, you need 8 defensive linemen to run a 4-2-5 successfully, and we just didn't have them. We only had 5 or 6 guys that were really good defensive linemen, so we went to a 3-4. I have the ability to adapt. It's just in my core value, in my core coaching value, I'm a big 4-2-5 guy. I'm an even front guy that will do that whenever I possibly can. But I do have the ability, and I can get to an odd front if we need to. But I'm hoping to be a 4-2-5 guy and be able to and have enough guys we can do that.
So offensively, you're looking at a lot of the other things that a lot of people do right now: shotgun, spread,
sure,
run it, pass it. Yeah. I mean, everybody seems to do that anymore.
It's a variation or version of it.
Sure,
and that's I think the RPO game is obviously a huge thing in football, not just college, but high school level. People are doing that, and they're trying to find ways to find new variations to the RPO and new people to read. And now we're going to read this guy instead of that guy, and that you just every week it just changes. So to me, offensively, I like being able to run the football. People that you see win state titles. And people that have a lot of success in the playoffs, that go deep in the playoffs every year, are going to be teams that can run the football. Now, they can throw it. You take Bryant, for example. They can throw it. The kid they had down there in the last couple of years, great player, great quarterback. But they can line up and they can run it, too. They can hand out the ball off, and they can get any yards they need to get, they'll get it. And Bentonville was the same way up there in Northwest Arkansas. Greenwood's that way. Greenwood throws it pretty good. They're successful throwing the ball, but they can run it, and they'll run it a bunch. They run a lot more people think they do, even though they're a spread offense. So we want to get to that point where we have success running the football, but we can throw it, do both. Obviously, it takes a trigger guy that understands football, that has a good football mind, and has good athleticism and those type of things. So looking forward to seeing if we have that on campus and going from there.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to covering the Cyclones in the upcoming days and into next year.
Yeah, it'd be great. Good to see you, and anything that you can help us with out there with the media, man, we take it.
All right. This is Coach Dave Wheeler, and he's joining us here as we talk about, the first days of being the new Cyclone head football coach.
Your family, your most prized possession. You want to take care of them. You want to give them the very best. When choosing a pharmacy, you want someone that knows your name, understands you and your way of life. At Rose Drug, they will take care of your family just like you were their own. They will be someone that you can trust with the ones that you love the most. That's Rose Drug in Russelville.
Here, in the heart of the River Valley, is St. Mary's Regional Health System. Here is the area's most comprehensive range of medical services, along with advanced treatment options and responsive emergency care. Here is our team of more than 900 professionals who bring healthcare to life through people caring for people. And it is here where you can count on St. Mary's to always be, because to us, community matters. For more than 90 years, our investment in our community has been unmatched, and today that couldn't be stronger. St. Mary's, we're here for you.
When is the last time you had a life insurance checkup? Does your life insurance plan provide you with critical illness coverage or long-term care coverage? Contact the experts at Giroux & Associates for a life insurance checkup today. Protect your most valuable asset, yourself. Call Mike Giroux at 888-360-8611 to schedule an appointment today.
Joining us here on the Giroux & Associates hotline is two state champion Bryant Hornet football players. We've got Austin Ledbetter and Hayden Schrader. Guys, thanks for joining us today.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having us.
All right, Austin, we're going to start with you being the quarterback. Tell us about this state championship. You guys finished another undefeated season. That's 2 in a row and 3 straight state championships. So tell us about this season.
It was tough dealing with COVID and things like that. We didn't have a spring. We didn't have a summer. And, to go out there and win our 3rd straight, shows a lot about our team and the adversity we had to go through to finish the season.
What is it that has made Bryant so good as of recent?
I think it's our work ethic and our mentality. We work so hard from spring, summer to the end of the season to where, we're not going to give up. We're not going to let a team beat us, with all the work that we put in. We don't have that mentality to lose.
Refuse to lose. I love it. I assume that's got to come from Coach James.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Hayden, man, so thanks for joining us here. I mean, we got a bonus here. Got a guy that leads the state right now in receiving yardage. And you are, 8th in the nation, I believe, altogether in receiving yardage, 68 catches, 1,424 yards on the season. That says a lot being in the biggest classification.
Yes, sir. It's been fun year for sure.
And so tell us a little bit about your role on the team. I mean, you and Austin seem to have a really good connection. And, you're probably one of the very few high school tight ends that I've even seen be used. But you're not the regular lineup and block tight end, but I'm sure you can do that as well. So tell us about your role on the team this year.
Last year I did more of like hand down blocking on the end and stuff. Did a lot of H-back blocking last year, but this year really kind of split out wide more and stuff. Played a lot of backside receiver and got a lot more receiving reps this year.
You did. Yeah. Like I said, 68 catches on the year, 20 touchdowns, I believe. I mean, you had an incredible year at just catching the ball from Austin here. You guys, I talked to another coach recently, and he talked about your offensive line. Talk to us about the big uglies up front.
Oh, there's some monsters. Yeah, our tackles, Brooks and Will Diggins, they're extremely good. Will's a basketball player, which helps him a lot with his feet, and he's really strong and physical. Brooks, he's getting a lot of Division I looks right now. He's really good. He's about 6'4", 260, 270, and he can move real well. And our guards are really good. They can pull. And our centers are really good, a really good captain of the line.
Yeah, I had a coach tell me that they looked like a Division II offensive line right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Hayden, tell us a little bit about your recruiting here, man. We know Austin signed with Arkansas in baseball. What are you looking at here as far as your college prospects?
I've got a couple offers, D2 schools. I've got Henderson and OBU, and talking to a few D1 schools here in Arkansas.
So just you got a chance to sell yourself to the state here. Tell us why you need to be recruited by whoever you want to be recruited by.
I'm going to sit in the pocket or sit in the zone, sit in the windows, and get the ball.
Yeah.
Be where I need to be.
I mean, you lead the state in receiving. You're 8th in the country in receiving. You're doing something right there for sure. Austin, let's talk about you a little bit. You have, since we talked, you signed with Arkansas in baseball officially. Tell us a little bit about what you're looking forward. You've got a high school baseball season coming up as well. Tell us what the next few months look like for you.
I'm just trying to get ready for when I go up to Fayetteville. I'm trying to get a little bigger, a little stronger, throw a little harder. I'm trying to mature and get better in my game. I'm going up there as a two-way right now. So I need to start seeing, those bigger arms and things like that. And I just need to get, bigger, stronger.
Yeah.
And
so you're going up as a two-way. You're going as a pitcher. And what position are you looking to be playing up there?
Corner, third, or maybe middle infield.
Okay. All right. Hayden, you play baseball?
No, sir, just football.
No, just football. I was going to see if we could just get DVH to take you as well. No, man, we really appreciate you guys joining us today here on the Jerome Associates Hotline. It's good to talk to you guys. Man, Bryant Hornets, 3 straight state championships. I guess the last question would be for both of you. You guys are doing something or have done something at Bryant that hasn't been done since 93 through 95 with Pine Bluff winning 3 straight in the biggest class. Make your case for one of the best teams all time in Arkansas history.
I think just the day and age, it's hard to win now. Every team is really, really good. We've won 30 straight. It's just, I just think we're one of the best classes to ever come through the state in history.
I think you are. I think just watching you guys the time that I did this year, I mean, you're talking about the separation between you guys and North Little Rock. North Little Rock gave you a better game in the final than they did in the regular season. North Little Rock is a very good football team, and you guys handled them both times. I would say the separation between you and number 2 is probably as big as I have seen in high school football history in Arkansas. So congratulations to you guys on being one of the best ever. I mean, I know that's always a fun argument, something that you really can never prove, but as having an opportunity to lead the team in receiving and be the quarterback for the team to be that good and win 30 straight and 3 state championships.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, guys. Thanks for joining us here. That's Austin Ledbetter, Hayden Schrader from the Bryant Hornets. Join us here on the Jerome Associates Hotline on Primetime Preps, and we'll be back right after this.
Your family, your most prized possession. You want to take care of them. You want to give them the very best. When choosing a pharmacy, you want someone that knows your name, understands you and your way of life. At Rose Drug, they will take care of your family just like you were their own. They will be someone that you can trust with the ones that you love the most. That's Rose Drug in Russelville.
Here, in the heart of the River Valley, is St. Mary's Regional Health System. Here is the area's most comprehensive range of medical services, along with advanced treatment options and responsive emergency care. Here is our team of more than 900 professionals who bring healthcare to life through people caring for people. And it is here where you can count on St. Mary's to always be, because to us, community matters. For more than 90 years, our investment in our community has been unmatched, and today that couldn't be stronger. St. Mary's, we're here for you.
When is the last time you had a life insurance checkup? Does your life insurance plan provide you with critical illness coverage or long-term care coverage? Contact the experts at Giroux & Associates for a life insurance checkup today. Protect your most valuable asset, yourself. Call Mike Giroux at 888-360-8611 to schedule an appointment today.
Joining Primetime Preps on the Giroux & Associates hotline is the great Wess Moore of all kinds of media. You are the play-by-play guy for these state finals on AETN. How does somebody land a cool gig like that, man?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. And thoughts and prayers with Scott Inman and his family right now. You know, Scott, for the last several years, has been a big part of Arkansas PBS sports and the state championship games. And I'd filled in and did a little work during the basketball games. And so when Scott was unable to be a part of it this year, they asked if I could help out. And I said, yeah, heck yeah, whatever you need me to do, I'm there. So I'm just thrilled to be a part of it. I love doing it, whether I'm on TV or with the Buzz or just doing it for Fox 16. You know, I just love being there for the state championship games.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome for sure that they televise them now. You know, that was something that wasn't a luxury, you know, a few years back, not too long ago. And so now everybody gets a chance to see the best teams in the state go forward. And we have seen two champions arise already, Bryant and Greenwood. I'm not sure that it was a surprise to anybody.
No, I think the biggest surprise was how well North Little Rock played. The Charger Wildcats gave them everything they wanted and some. I thought North Little Rock had a great game plan coming in. They ran the ball really well, which I guess it should not have surprised me, but Bryant's defense is so good. But North Little Rock was able to run the ball, and Frederick O'Donnell, man, that kid is a beast. We saw, and we talked about this Saturday night, 3 good running backs in the first game, 3 really good running backs in the second game, and they're different styles, but there was some beast out there running the ball Saturday at War Memorial Stadium. They made for 2 really fun games.
You know, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of the school now that I kind of like to see the ball back on the ground a little bit. Everybody throws it so much anymore. It's like it's nice to see a diversity of offense because everybody runs RPO. You know, everybody runs some variation of shotgun spread. So it's kind of nice when you see like a Lake Hamilton running a different, you know, a split veer type of offense or whatever, and maybe not going that far, but just to be able to have a diversity of offense. Football was a lot more fun, in my opinion, when you had 2 teams with 2 different styles going against each other.
You definitely had that in the 6A game. Now, Greenwood was able to run the ball effectively in the second half. In the first half, they were throwing it around a little bit, hit the big plays to Brewer for touchdowns. That one right before the half, I feel like, was just a killer for Lake Hamilton. But then the second half, Greenwood was effectively able to run the ball and control the clock. But and you go back to that North Little Rock game. North Little Rock wasn't going to let Hayden Schrader and Austin Ledbetter beat them. They were rushing 3, dropping 8, kind of taking a page out of Barry Odom's book in the Arkansas Razorbacks. And so Buck James and his offensive coordinator said, okay, well, we'll run the ball. We've got some Tanner Anderson, Bracey. Those 2 backs are tough, and they ran the ball, and they were very effective running the ball. But what happened, that sped up the game. That clock was running, and it became a shorter game with fewer possessions, which did work into North Little Rock's favor. Unfortunately for them, they had the 2 costly interceptions that was probably 2 of the biggest plays in the game.
I've been paying attention to high school football all my life, and I can only think of one team off the top of my head that I could say was better than this year's Bryant team. That was Springdale. And that was 2005. I know that the Little Rock Central teams of 03 and 04 were really, really, really good. This Bryant team ranks right up there with some of the greatest teams in the state.
And the crazy thing about it, they have one Division I offer, and that's a junior offensive lineman that has an offer to Kansas. You know, of course, Ledbetter's going to Arkansas to play baseball, but those running backs, you can't tell me they can't play Division I football. Or just the Schrader, their wide receiver. I know that North Little Rock shut him down, but to me, he can play Division I football. There's enough talent on that Bryant team that some schools are missing out on some players. No doubt in my mind.
I'm with you. I agree 100%. Hayden Schrader is, as of right now, he's 8th in the country, I believe, in reception yardage. 68 catches, 1,400 plus receiving yards, and 28 touchdowns on the year, playing kind of a hybrid tight end role. Unbelievable player there for Bryant. And, of course, we also talk about Greenwood, dynasties. I mean, that's their 10th state championship in the last 20 seasons there at Greenwood. They are 10-3 in the big game. That's as impressive a stat as there is to me. They've made it 13 times. They've won it 10.
Yeah, it's, that championship feeling, expecting to win, not just get there, but to expect to win it. And for some teams, I think it is an accomplishment to get to War Memorial Stadium. But for Greenwood, that's not the accomplishment. The accomplishment is riding back home to Sebastian County, celebrating. That's the accomplishment. And so while some are happy to be there, Greenwood's going to win it.
Yes, they're definitely – they start the season with the expectation that they're going to win it.
Kind of like Pulaski Academy.
Right, exactly.
Kind of takes us to our next game.
That's exactly right. Pulaski Academy and Little Rock Christian. Little Rock Christian has been the only team in the state that's had the opportunity to even beat Pulaski Academy, even play with them, really. I mean, last weekend, Wynn comes to town, very good Wynn team, gets beat 52-14. Does Little Rock Christian have enough in the tank to be able to beat PA this year?
Little Rock Christian has done something, in my opinion, throughout the season, and that gives them an opportunity. They've started running the ball more. They were throwing it a lot earlier in the season. I was at that Magnolia game when when Little Rock Christian was beaten, had some costly turnovers, some interceptions, and I know some players were out of that game for Little Rock Christian, some starters. But since then, I feel like Little Rock Christian's been running the ball a lot more. I watched their game online against Harrison last week, and we talked about COVID and all the changes COVID's brought. I tell you, one of the positives is more teams are streaming their games on Friday nights live. And so you're able, if you're a high school football fan, to sit around and flip around on YouTube and watch some of these games. I sat here at the station and watched Harrison, Little Rock Christian, Harding Academy, Prescott and McGee, one more game. I was watching the PA game. But Little Rock Christian focused on running the ball. Corey Platt was awesome. He had 133 yards rushing on 8 carries, 5 touchdowns. That's a pretty good ratio. 8 carries, 5 touchdowns. And, of course, Javion Dyer-Jones, he was their bell cow. He ran it 23 times for almost 200 yards and a touchdown. They're really running the ball. And if they can run the ball against PA, to me, that's the blueprint to beating the Bruins.
Yeah, it has to be. You got to keep the ball in their hand.
Yep.
And one of the things that I know about Little Rock Christian is they've seen them so many times that they actually are probably somewhat accustomed to how they play. If you haven't seen how PA plays, you really don't have a lot of chance. And I could go all the way back to when PA played Highland Park in Texas, I don't know how many years back, and go break like an 84-game win streak there at home. When you don't see that style of play, it's just amazing. It's hard to stay with.
It's hard for a defense. You're accustomed all your life, 3 downs. You got 3 downs to stop them, and then you come off the field. Well, that's not the case with Pulaski Academy. You get them in 4th and 8, and you're celebrating, and the coach is like, no, stay out there. And they get a first down. It just breaks your back as a defense. You'd think you have them finally stopped, and then they get it on 4th down. And then there's the onside kicks. There's the 2-point conversions. All that adds up. And then it's just a frenetic pace. It's just that it's so fast-paced. It's like, honestly, it's a lot like Nolan Richardson in the 40 Minutes of Hell. It's just fast-paced, and most teams aren't used to that. And Kevin Kelly will tell you, the best way to slow down a really good defensive line that rushes the quarterback and sacks the quarterback, you wear them out. They'll go short passes, quick passes all the way down the field and try to get those guys tired. And then, when he sees those hands on the hip, he'll have the quarterback take a 5-step drop because he knows that slows down the pass rush. So that's just part of their game plan, their style of doing it, and the players buy in, from the 5th grade. They're running this offense and they're doing the onside kicks. They're going for it on 4th down. The defense is put in some bad situations at a young age. They're used to, starting with the opponent getting the ball on the 18-yard line, and they only have 18 yards to defend. Other teams aren't used to that, and it's a big deal when their offense doesn't get it on 4th down. At PA, those kids have been doing it for 6 or 7 years, so when it happens at the high school level, it's no big deal.
Yeah. They're just accustomed to how they play, and they play it differently than anybody else does. I'm surprised that we haven't seen more teams in Arkansas especially take it up, but it takes a coach that has intestinal fortitude. How about that?
and job security too. Let's face
right.
it, because there are times when Kevin Kelly goes for it on 4th down on his own 20 and he doesn't get it, and the defense allows a score. That doesn't look very smart, does it? But the PA fans are accustomed to it. They know what's coming, and they realize what's about to happen. And if it does happen, well, you know what? They had a short field, they scored, but you know what? The offense is about to get it back, and they're going to go down and score and either tie it up or take the lead. So it's ingrained in the way that they do things at Pulaski Academy right now.
Yeah, and we've got a 2A game, a Des Arc and Fordyce. Fordyce going for their 2nd straight state title. Des Arc is a team that has been really good throughout the years, made a state title game or 2 here and there, but they've always ran into a Fordyce. They've always ran into a Junction City. And I've got a friend of mine who was at the Fordyce Gurdon game, said those 2 teams, it was really hard to see anybody being better than those 2 teams on the field.
That was one of those games. Our Jay Burr from Fox 16 was there and was there for the whole game. And he said it was a game after it was over, you felt bad that somebody had to lose, that both were really good football teams. And while one sideline was celebrating the opportunity to play for a state championship, the other sideline, they were just sick because their season was over. Both very, very good teams. And I'm excited for this matchup just because Jaquez Cross, I have not seen him in person since last year. I want to see how much he's grown as a player. Of course, he's committed to Purdue. He's had 30 touchdowns this year. He does a little bit of everything, punt return, kick return, catching, running, plays defense. So he's one of those athletes on the field that should stick out if you're watching, if you're at the game Saturday, if you're watching on Arkansas PBS.
Yeah. Finally, you had 3A and 4A still in the semifinals. I don't know that we've ever had a season go as long as the 3A and the 4A will, going almost to Christmas this year. I thought in the 4A, to me, is such a competitive classification. Seems like it's more wide open. You got more teams, more really good teams with chances to win. You've got a Warren team that has come out of nowhere, and I say that respectively because they're Warren, but started the season 0-3 and have just come out and just like gangbusters, just won, I think, every game but one since. You've got a Stuttgart team that has turned the season around, completely flipped it from 0 for the season to undefeated. You got Shiloh Christian, who is Shiloh Christian. That's a name. And then Rivercrest, who has, well, in my opinion, one of the, if not the best player in the state this year in Cam Turner.
Yeah, he's fun, man. You look at just some of the totals he's put up this season, 2,800 yards passing, 37 touchdowns, and he's rushed the ball for over 1,600 yards, 22 touchdowns. So what's that, 59 total touchdowns for Cam Turner? Yeah, that guy, he does it all. But, I mean, he's got some players that he throws the ball, to. Keyshawn Scott is a running back, and he catches it out of the backfield. So Rivercrest is loaded. Warren is probably the story for 4A, or one. I mean, to be 0-3, and a lot of people wrote off the Lumberjacks. I did. I thought they were done. They lost to Stuttgart 36-0 at the beginning of the season. We had to go back and start looking. I think it was 2011 or 2009, the last time they were mercy ruled, and they were shut out that same game. It was just injuries were depleting the Lumberjacks, and you just thought, well, that you're just going to chalk it up as one of those years that teams go through, that they get the injury bug. But a couple of the guys have come back, and just got to give Bo Hembry a lot of credit for getting them to the semifinals. And I watched that game, Warren and Nashville. That was the other game I watched last week. You talk about back and forth. Both teams were just piling up the points. And right before half, Warren intercepted the ball, a pick six, 67 yards, Jakari Lee. That changed the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Nashville was going in to tie it up at half. Instead, you get a pick six. Warren's got a 14-point lead. And that pretty much – that was the difference in this game. That pick six was huge for Warren. And then you go to Stuttgart, and I'm doing some prep for them, and it's sophomore, junior. And I picked them to lose to Joe T. Robinson. I did. I thought the experience from Joe T, winning a state championship, being a little older, I thought it's just not Stuttgart's year this year. It's next year or the next year. You know, keep an eye on Stuttgart the next 2 years. But I remember back in the early 90s, I'm a Cowboys fan. And everybody said, well, the Cowboys are a year off, but wait till next year. They went to San Francisco, beat the 49ers, went to the Super Bowl, beat the Bills, and that was the start of them winning, 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, and the heyday for the Cowboys. So don't ever say it's too early for a team like Stuttgart. I know they got Shiloh this week, but they've got so much talent. That Shiloh defense is great. I mean, it is great. They're going to be tested by the speed of Stuttgart this week.
Yeah, the athleticism and speed that Stuttgart will bring to the field. And Josh Price is one of the more underrated coaches in the state, a guy that left Dardanelle, and Dardanelle's still a good program, but he really built that program into a real contender. In fact, I believe it was 2014, they lost on a field goal to Warren. They're at Dardanelle, probably would have won the state championship. In fact, Warren did go on to win the state championship. So Josh Price does a fantastic job, very tough-minded, hard-nosed coach there at Stuttgart. And, of course, there's a lot of good coaches out here in the state of Arkansas a lot of people don't know about. Finally, 3A, McGee. Let's talk a little bit about that Prescott-McGee game and how that game ended.
I didn't believe it, honestly. I gave the score on Fearless Friday, and it was around 9:50, I guess. And I don't know the final score. I've seen the highlights. I put in a fourth quarter score, and I go out there, and we're doing all the other games. We get to 3A, and I say, well, let's show them the final score, and it pops up McGee wins. And I was nervous. I was like, I hope we didn't get that score wrong. How did this happen? And I came back in, I got on Fearless Friday, and sure enough, it says McGee won. I went back, I had the game on, McGee and Prescott. I was watching it online. I went back and watched the last 2 minutes of that game because I could not believe what happened. That Prescott scores, they're up 9 late in the game. I think it was 39-30. McGee gets, first of all, Prescott, I guess they're taking the page out of Pulaski Academy's book. They kick an onside kick all the time. They kick an onside kick. It's a perfect onside kick right along the sideline. And the offensive guy, it just goes right through his hands, out of bounds. I mean, that was play number 1. If they catch that onside kick, game over. Goes through his hands. McGee gets the ball. They hit a big play for 40 yards. They get down by the goal line, score touchdown. Okay, it's a 1-point game. They kick the onside kick. It's bouncing around. They jump on it, get it. Hit another big play. They're down inside the 10-yard line, but Prescott stops them on first down. Prescott stops them on second down. They stop them on third down. Now there's 7 seconds left in the game. It's 4th and goal. They call a timeout, and I'm like, you think Prescott's had so many they dropped an interception in the end zone. They've had so many chances. I'm like, it's going to – well, I know it's about to cost them. And on 4th and goal, they run a little fade route. The wide receiver runs a great route, a little in and then out, and he's wide open. And the quarterback puts the ball on the money, and they score to win it. It was just an incredible finish. You just felt sick for Prescott. I mean, what a great team that they had and all that talent. And they let their guard down. I mean, simple truth. That's a prime example. Every coach should show their team. You've got to play the full 4 quarters. You cannot let down, even though you're up 9 points with 2 minutes to go.
It kind of feels like those old Arkansas Texas A&M losses with Bielema here, where Arkansas would just control the game, the whole game, and then somehow A&M would find a way to win, and usually in overtime by the time it was all said and done.
I got to say, Jordan Owens is the quarterback for McGee, and he's got a couple of wide receivers, man. A.J. Jordan is one, Marcus Rose is another, and Jody Easter. I watched Easter, and I was like, this guy can play. I think he's a college football player. I texted Richard Davenport, the recruiting guy, like, have you heard of this receiver from McGee? And he's like, you must be talking about Jody. And I was like, yeah, Jody Easter, that guy can go. Yeah. But he's one to watch this week against Hoxie. I know Hoxie's got the brothers, Dalen Powell and Derek Powell, twin brothers, I guess, and they ran for over, what was it, 5? They accounted for almost 600 yards last week, the two guys, either passing or rushing the ball. Those two Powell brothers have got Hoxie in the semifinals. They'll be fun to watch. That McGee game we're going to send Nick Walters down to McGee Friday night, so I'm excited to see the highlights from Hoxie and McGee.
That's a long trip, no matter where you go, where you come from, unless you're coming from Louisiana or Mississippi. Long way down to McGee. You need to tell whoever's going down there to have some Hoots barbecue. I've heard that's the place to go.
Hoots barbecue. I'm writing it down right now. He's from Texas, so he needs to try out Hoots barbecue.
Hoots barbecue. Right. I've heard that it's amazing. I've tried to go through there a time or two and catch it, and it's one of those that's not open all the time. But that's the good barbecue. If it's open all the time, Sunday through Sunday, it's probably not as good as those ones that are open just a little bit of time. So anyway, but man, Wes, I appreciate you joining us here on the Giroux and Associates hotline and really talking some ball. I could do this all day long, man.
You bet. I'm going to tell you, I watched Harding Academy. They're the team to beat. They're so fun to watch. And look, Coach Keener, Glenn Rose, I consider him a friend. He'll do anything for us. Great for the media. They have their hands full this week, and he knows it. But Harding Academy, the defending champs, looked awesome last week.
Yeah, I've wondered if there was anybody that could beat them. And, I mean, you've got 4 really good teams there as well. Of course, when you get into the semifinals, that's where we're at. Yeah. You're going to have 4 really good teams. It's going to be an interesting weekend next weekend as well with the 4A and 3A finals.
I'm looking forward to it. That 4A, like you said, is always, to me, the most wide open. And I think I have no clue. I was trying to make my picks for this week for 4A, and either or. With Shiloh or Stuttgart, you can go either way. Warren or Rivercrest, you can go either way, and it's hard to argue.
Yeah. Well, with Bo Embry on the sideline at Warren, it's hard to bet against him. But, man, I saw Cam Turner and Keyshawn Scott there up close and personal. And not only they've got 2 other guys as well that can just flat go. They're loaded there, so that's going to be a fantastic ball game as well.
Yeah, if I had to bet that, it's hard. Like you said. Sorry, I'm pounding my table. I'm so excited. It's hard to bet against Bo Embry, but Rivercrest is loaded.
They're loaded. Got a great facility out there. It's just in the middle of nowhere. We broadcast the Pottsville game that first week, and so we were out there. So it was pretty awesome. But hey, Wes, really appreciate you joining us here, and man, we'll talk to you again.
All right, sounds good. Call me anytime.
All right, thanks a lot. As Wes Moore joining us on Giroux and Associates Hotline here on Primetime Preps, and we'll be back right after this.
Your family, your most prized possession. You want to take care of them. You want to give them the very best. When choosing a pharmacy, you want someone that knows your name, understands you and your way of life. At Rose Drug, they will take care of your family just like you were their own. They will be someone that you can trust with the ones that you love the most. That's Rose Drug in Russelville.
Here, in the heart of the River Valley, is St. Mary's Regional Health System. Here is the area's most comprehensive range of medical services, along with advanced treatment options and responsive emergency care. Here is our team of more than 900 professionals who bring healthcare to life through people caring for people. And it is here where you can count on St. Mary's to always be, because to us, community matters. For more than 90 years, our investment in our community has been unmatched, and today that couldn't be stronger. St. Mary's, we're here for you.
When is the last time you had a life insurance checkup? Does your life insurance plan provide you with critical illness coverage or long-term care coverage? Contact the experts at Giroux & Associates for a life insurance checkup today. Protect your most valuable asset, yourself. Call Mike Giroux at 888-360-8611 to schedule an appointment today.
Welcome back into the last segment of Primetime Preps. Brad Caldwell and Bill Harshaw here. And, man, we've had a great show today, man. Wess Moore, the play-by-play guy for the state finals, AETN broadcast there, talking about the state finals at War Memorial Stadium. Of course, everything right now that we're doing is revolving around that. It's a great time to be a part of sports and high school sports, being able to name some champions. And we harped on it. I don't want to harp on it too much, but it's something that we didn't think necessarily that we were going to get a chance to do. Now we're in basketball, kind of have those same questions. Can we get through a season,
right.
name a champion, that sort of thing? And so, anyway, it's just great. So this weekend you got Pulaski Academy, you got Little Rock Christian facing off, as well as Des Arc and Fordyce. Those are the two big games, along with the semifinals in 4A and 3A.
I think those are going to be some pretty good games. We've mentioned earlier that, PA, they're kind of a league of their own. I would expect PA to win that game. If we were picking it, that would be my pick. And then, I don't know, in 2A we have Fordyce and Des Arc, and I think that's going to be a really good one. Fordyce is a traditional year in and year out powerhouse, and Des Arc's kind of coming along saying, hey, we can have good teams, we can have bad teams, but this year we have a really good one, and they were trying to prove something. So I think it's all going to depend on how well they can come up for that game.
Yeah, and I think that Fordyce is your odds-on favorite, but Fordyce and Junction was a really good game. I think that Des Arc's on that level. I think Fordyce is probably just a little bit ahead of them. So I think that we're looking at back-to-back state championships in 2A and with the Fordyce Redbugs. And, I wanted to say that one of my greatest memories of my childhood as far as high school football goes was in 1992 when Ozark hosted Fordyce. And, of course, and this was the state semifinals in 92. And I had, heard some. Of course, I've always been an avid follower of high school sports. Steve Sullivan, all the way back in the day. I got to get Steve on here because he really was one of those guys that I followed throughout my life. Back at Channel 4, and then now at Channel 7 there as the guy. But Fordyce, the Redbugs come to Ozark. Very, very cold night that night at Ozark, and Ozark was able to defeat Fordyce when nobody thought that they would. Nobody thought that they would be able to beat them, and they did. And, of course, they ended up playing Pine Bluff Dollaway that year. That was not a good thing. Pine Bluff Dollaway did their thing, as they always did back then. And anyway, Fordyce, that was part of my childhood memories with Fordyce. They've been a power for so many years, Bill. Had some down years as of recent, but have kind of come back to the forefront as one of the top teams in Class 2A.
That's it. And, I think Fordyce, as you mentioned, they've been involved in the playoffs in some form or another for as long as I can remember. So I'm right there along with you. They're going to be a year in and year out opponent, and the same thing's happening this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pull things out, but I think it's going to look well for them.
On the semifinals in 4A, you've got big-time matchups here. Stuttgart at Shiloh, Warren at Rivercrest. I don't know. Bill, I don't even know who are going to win these ball games. I mean, Stuttgart pulled off the victory last week against Ozark, beat who did they beat earlier? Who was it?
CAC.
CAC. Well, no, that wasn't it. I'm going to have to go back here and look now because my memory is slipping. But Stuttgart pulled off the victory this last week against Ozark. And, they're 10-0. Oh, it was Robinson. That's who it was. Robinson was the team.
How can you forget about
exactly.
that one?
That was the big one there. And I said that I think that might put Stuttgart in a position to be the odds-on favorite to win. But, man, I mean, you're going to Shiloh Christian. You've also got, on the other side, you got Warren, who's playing very well, taking down Nashville at Nashville. And then Rivercrest. That one, man, that's going to be two awesome matchups in the 4A.
It really is, and I think the one thing about Stuttgart that, at least in my book, is Stuttgart has such an interesting story, where last year kind of went over. Didn't really have anything going on for them. This year, however, they are definitely making waves, and so it's that Cinderella story, and I don't want Midnight to strike on them this week. Listen, I'm on the Riceburg plane, I guess. We're not going to call it a bandwagon.
Yeah.
I'm on the Riceburg plane this week and probably through the rest of the playoffs. I want to see the Riceburgs win. I want to see Josh Price pull this out. But what a season.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, incredible turnaround season there for the Stuttgart Riceburgs. Guys like Jaden Strange. I mean, this kid is a kid that's going to be probably recruited by Arkansas and many others. Got a very, very strong underclass there. They're going to be a good team coming back next year, a team that will come back as one of the odds-on favorites to win it again in the 4A. So they're going to be up there. Of course, again, Shiloh Christian. Shiloh Christian has been 10 years without winning a state championship.
Oh, they're hungry.
So they're hungry, ready to go, trying to break through. In fact, I'm not sure that Shiloh's even played for 1 in 10 years. I know they've been to the semifinals a few times. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can break through. I mean, who would have thought 10 years ago you'd say it's 10 years since Shiloh won it all. That has just not happened. It's just not happened, and not something that we would have thought would have happened.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think it's been a long drought for Shiloh Christian. I want to see Shiloh get back into this, but they have a tough road to hoe against Stuttgart, and that's where you start looking at Warren and Rivercrest, that other matchup in 4A, where Warren is that year in, year out powerhouse. Shiloh is used to being the same thing. Stuttgart's kind of on the outside looking in, so is Rivercrest. So I think in both of these two games that we have in 4A this week, I think what's interesting is Shiloh, they're used to being there. Warren, they're used to being there. And they're each playing somebody who is not always there.
Yeah.
And I think that's the storyline for me. It's going to set up, if big names win across the board, that will set up a Shiloh-Warren matchup for the state final. And that's just one it's kind of gross to think about.
But who would want to see a Cam Turner get a chance to play in the state finals with Keyshawn Scott and that bunch there? So I mean, they're going to be fantastic matchups there on that 4A side. On the 3A side, another great set of matchups: Glen Rose at Harding Academy, Hoxie at McGee. Games that I definitely that Hoxie at McGee game is one that I can't call. The Glen Rose at Harding Academy game, you got to give the slight edge, I'd say, to Harding Academy. But one thing I know about Glen Rose is they're going to come out fighting. They're going to be tough. They're going to be tough to beat. I promise you, they're not just going to lay down for Harding Academy.
And I think you're right. I mean, Harding Academy, we mentioned earlier, they are probably the team to beat in 3A. So that's going to be a big-time matchup, not only for Harding Academy to prove themselves against Glen Rose, but also looking ahead at the game that it's tough to call, man. Hoxie and McGee. Hoxie took it to a tough Paris team last week. McGee, I can't say it enough. I love their offense. I love that style. I would not want to defend it, but it's getting to the point in the season where it's really hard to pick these games.
It definitely is, and there's a reason why, because everybody is really, really good. You don't make it this far without being very good.
That's
and,
right.
At this point, they say, as they say, the wheat has been separated from the chaff. And so, anyway, so we're going to move on into our primetime performers here as we get ready to wrap this show up. And, of course, we've said it over and over and over and over again. And another guy that he just continues to make our primetime performers list. You've got Cam Turner, 40 yards passing, not a big day passing, but 20 carries, 151 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, 1 through the air, and then a 95-yard scoop and score.
95-yard scoop and score according to Max Preps, and that's 6 trips to the end zone. That'll warrant a trip to a primetime performer list. And Cam Turner, we've talked about him almost on a weekly basis. We've had him on the show a few times, seen him in person. Just an overall great athlete. I think he's underrated. I'm surprised that a lot of people in the D1 ranks aren't really looking at him. It may be because he's a little on the smaller side, but boy, he sure does make up for it in what he has to offer.
Players play, and
That's it.
Cam Turner has had one of the best seasons in the state of Arkansas, maybe in the history of the state of Arkansas. It's been a fantastic year for him and the Rivercrest Colts. They don't want it to end as they host Warren this week. Charlie Pfizer of Pulaski Academy gets a chance to do it one more time in the state championship game, 23 of 32, 203 and 3 touchdowns for the Bruin.
And that's one of those teams, I believe, that we were talking about, where the quarterback will kind of split, right? That's the PA that has the multiple quarterback that actually works, and it's interesting to see when that happens. But Charlie Pfizer, 23 out of 32 for 203 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is a great performance against prime-time competition. And that's the thing. And when you look at a lot of these stats, they're not those eye-popping 400- or 500-yard performances that we've seen in some other weeks. But what you are seeing is you're seeing these done against quality competition. And so to put up 203 yards and 3 touchdowns, Charlie Pfizer's getting it done for the Bruins. And then Caden Sipe over at Harding Academy, the Wildcat quarterback and senior, has 12 of 13, only missed one pass, 12 of 13, 237 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He's big time. He shows up quite a bit here in the primetime performers, and a guy that a team that good, you got to have a guy that can pull the trigger. And Harding Academy hasn't lost to a 3A competition since they lost to Lamar, I believe, in 2018. So they are, again, ready to step into that state final. Jaheim Brown of Fordyce, 10 of 16 passing, 126, 11 carries, 72 yards. 3 total touchdowns for the Red Bugs. Big-time performance there as they beat what some are saying is the state championship game last week, which was at Gurdon. I think Desart's going to have something to say about that.
I think you're right. But Jaheim Brown, what a performance to put 126 up through the air and run for almost another buck, running for 72 yards on 11 carries. Great performance by Jaheim Brown. And then we have Dalen Powell, I should say, with Hoxie. 15 carries, 291 yards, and 4 touchdowns for the Mustangs. What a performance by Powell.
Big-time performance there by Powell. And anytime that you rush for almost 300 yards in a game, especially in a game in the playoffs, you're going to be in primetime performers, no doubt about that. Dalen Powell has had a fantastic year for the Hoxie Mustangs. The guy that's had another fantastic year, Joseph Hyman, 15 carries, 110 yards, 13 receptions, 208, 2 rushing, 1 receiving. Can anybody stop Mr. Hyman?
I don't think so. I think that's an outstanding performance. He's taking care of things with his legs. He's able to catch some balls. 13 receptions for 208 yards. That's a big-time target for the Bruins. And, of course, we know that the Bruins are not going to punt. They're not going to, they're going to go for 2. They're going to do everything they can, onside kicks and all. And that just allows Joseph Hyman more opportunities to touch the ball.
Right, exactly. And they're going to get the ball to the big-time players. Of course, they've got a lot of them to go around there at PA. But Mr. Hyman is a guy that just continues to pop up there. Andrew Miller of Harding Academy, 11 carries, 195, 3 receptions, 51 yards, and 5 total touchdowns.
5 total touchdowns. I believe all of those, I think, were receptions. So a little under half of his receptions went for 6. And that's Primetime. And again, against quality competition, Andrew Miller, the running back senior, not only carrying the load, but also receiving some of it.
And finally, Corey Platt Jr. of Little Rock Christian, 8 carries, 133, 3 receptions, 47 yards, and 6 touchdowns. We like those guys that get into the end zone.
We do. If you're producing some points, that'll get you on the Primetime Performers list just about every time. But 6 trips to the end zone, 5 of them on the ground, 1 receiving touchdown. So a third of his receptions went for 6, and what a performance from Corey Platt Jr.
Well, Bill, the stage is set. We've got 2 state championships down. We've got 4 more to go. We've got semifinal action in 4A and 3A. It's going to be another awesome week. Man, we may have a big-time guest next week. I think you really
might want to keep an eye on that one.
You might want to keep an eye. We're working on that one right now as we speak. We'll just say this. He doesn't live in the state of Arkansas.
But he has connections.
And so he's going to be somebody that you're going to be interested in. And I think we're going to get him. I do. I think we're going to get him. So we'll see how that works out. But as for right now, we're going to wrap this one up.
Yeah. Also want to say thank you to Russelville High School.
Absolutely.
For allowing us to come and sit in their gym and just kind of check out. We've been able to watch some of the kids practicing behind us. They got a big game tonight. So good luck to the Cyclones. But thank you, Russelville High School, for allowing us to come in and be a part of our show here.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we're going to say so long for this edition of Primetime Preps, and we will see you next week right here on all the ESPN platforms.